Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are gathered here to deliver our latest quarterly webinar, which is all around driving success and profitability through your workplace policy. So really hot, really important topic. Before we kick off, I just want to give you a very quick overview of who we are at the Curve Group in case you haven't engaged with us before. So we essentially provide HR and recruitment services of lots of different shapes and formats across the entire employee lifecycle. Our purpose really is to support organisations to both design, develop, elevate, and even transform recruitment and HR functions. And we do this in a number of ways, primarily through really great audits and diagnostics that we offer, benchmarking, consultancy with specialists, and also delivery services. So, welcome. This morning, I am going to be joined by two of my lovely colleagues, Kat Coggins, who's head of our internal HR and legal, and also head of HR consultancy, Anna Clapton. My name is Sam Pusey. I am head of insights, employer brand, and marketing at the Curve Group. I will share our contact details again later on. So if you've got any questions throughout, you can either use the QA facility or you're very welcome to take them offline and drop us an email later. We will have a little bit of time, hopefully at the end, sort of for an open Q&A session. So if you've got any questions that come up, either feel free to come on the mic at the end or just drop them into the chat box. A little bit of housekeeping before I start. So we will be recording this webinar and we will send you a copy along with a copy of the deck in the next 24 hours. But obviously it'd be really great if you could please stay with us and engage with the webinar and try and ask us any questions so we can have a really great live activity. So in terms of what's coming up today, first of all, we're just going to start with the kind of the ground rules really, and so why HR policies are so important and the significance of those. And then we're going to start looking at why you should be, as an organisation, investing in your policies, both from kind of a standard, important compliance perspective, but also actually the benefit that your policies can have on your people and motivating your workforce, and ultimately the impact that great policies can have on your profit and your bottom line. And then we're going to look at actually, that's all well and good. We can give you some great reasons for looking at policies, but how do you actually take that into your business and into your workforce? What do you do? And how do you review those policies? Where do you start? And then how do you actually start to push out some of those changes? And importantly, make sure that all the changes that you're putting in place are actually successfully embedded into your organisation. We'll then also look at how you measure success. We'll close with some top tips and then we'll open for Q&A. During the webinar, we'll just be referencing a few services today. So I thought I would just highlight those at the beginning just to make it a little bit easier to navigate your way through. So as I mentioned previously, we offer a really vast range of audits and diagnostics. So we can audit HR policies, employee handbooks, and we actually have got a lot of traction with that of late because it's a really hot topic, like I mentioned. We've also got some amazing consultancy expertise, two of whom our consultants are with me today. So you'll hear from them shortly. And then we'll also reference our HR outsource services. We'll also mention in a couple of places the 2024 vision, which we launched at the beginning of the year, which was basically the back end of a survey that we undertook with all of our HR and TA population and network and peers to really ask them what they're going to be focusing on this year. And that's the whole reason why we're talking about policies, because a huge chunk of that population came back and said they've already been working significantly on elevating, improving, updating their HR policies, and they continue to do so this year. So what I'm going to do now, without further ado, is hand over to my first co-presenter, Kat. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Sam. Hi, everyone. It's lovely to have you join us. So where we're going to start is around, obviously, the significance of HR policy. So some may say it's a dry subject. I love a policy. And we've got a lovely quote here: HR policies are the gateway to your company culture. I think it's fair to say that they're not the heartbeat of the organisation, but they do feed into multiple different areas. And they help to define and communicate how you want your organisation to portray its culture, which is that piece around those shared values, that shared standards and behaviours that make up the persona of your organisation. So while some of that is unwritten, a lot of it can be written into policies, and that just helps to provide clear guidance to your employees on what they can expect from the organisation but also what the organisation expects from those employees. As Sam mentioned, we did a survey at the beginning of the year, which has fed into our 2024 vision. And as part of that, it was clear to see that some of our competitors, some of your competitors, businesses kind of across the UK are looking at this at the moment. 71% of businesses, so nearly 3/4 of those surveyed, confirmed they have modified people-related policies in the last 12 months. And the reasons behind that were around modernisation, so updating their policies, keeping them up to date with the legislative changes, and also relaunching or launching new policies around new benefits. So it's really key that organisations are keeping up to date with those changes. And it's a way of attracting and then retaining the talent, so that the organisation works as it needs to and keeping hold of the really important asset, which is people. So we move on to some examples of policies, and what you need in your business and what you have in your business will very much vary depending on the size and scale of your business and the industry you're in. We've listed a few examples here. So obviously underpinning everything is your contract of employment. That's a legal requirement. You need to have terms and conditions in place with your employees. We then move on to kind of a vast array of policies that you might or should have in place. Again, a couple that aren't on there that maybe you might want to consider, again, the hot topics at the moment is around neurodiversity and also artificial intelligence. So what as your organisation are you doing around artificial intelligence, and also some guidance for employees in terms of how can they use it to help them, or maybe what they shouldn't be using. So then we move on to why invest in your HR policies. Again, it can be a bit of a tick box exercise for some organisations, but there are some clear reasons why you should be investing in your HR policies. And we've kind of split them up into three main categories. So we've got compliance. So this is the legal reasons behind investing in your HR policies. If you don't invest, the cost of not doing so could be vastly more than actually if you just put the time in the first place to get them right. Your people. So your people, like I said, are your most important asset within your business. You need to look after them, and having clear guidance and policies around what you give to them as an employee, but what they should be doing as employees of your business and how they should be representing your brand is really important. And then kind of all of that feeds into profit. So how your HR policies affect your bottom line. So this is all towards productivity, but also recruitment costs and keeping those low. So firstly, I'm going to focus on compliance, my favourite subject. So this, I've kind of split into three questions really around, do you have the suitable policies in place for the size and scale of your business? It is not a one-size-fits-all situation. You need to be looking at what do you want to achieve? What's your strategy? What's your goal? What services do you provide? What products do you provide? What industry are you in? Are you regulated? All of these questions will then feed into what policies you should have in place. Do those policies meet legislative requirements? So are they meeting the kind of legal minimums that should be in place? And then, like I said, do they align with your business strategy? Are they helping you achieve what you want to achieve in your business? Having those clear structured policies in place should provide employees with the guidance needed on how to operate internally as a business. But like I said, they do need to meet those statutory minimums. As an employer, we all have a legal duty of care over our employees, and policies will help you help your organisation communicate that you're taking this seriously, basically. So there's a few policies that we would recommend having in place. So like I said, the terms and conditions are extremely important. They underpin everything. Health and safety is a policy you need to have in place, and that's applicable where there are more than 5 employees. A disciplinary policy and a grievance policy. They're 2 key policies that obviously will help you manage any issues or situations that may arise throughout your organisation. And then the risk of not having policies in place and non-compliance with those is multifactored, but obviously we have fines, we have employment tribunals, we have reputational damage, so internally and externally, so where things have gone wrong internally, where things have gone wrong externally, and it's gone to a wider audience. Your recruitment and your retention might be affected. And then, like I said, productivity might be impacted, which has an overall effect on your profits. So just by having those key policies in place, by making sure they are communicated and people are following them, they give your managers, your leadership team, your employees the guidance they need to deal with any issues as and when they arise. I think a great place to start, if you're not sure where to start, is an audit. So what do you have in place currently and what might you need for your business? And you could do that internally, it doesn't cost much, or you could go externally, and it's a service we provide, just to have a look at the lay of the land and then plan for the future. I did mention earlier, but obviously there have been a vast array of legislative updates this year. Mainly around flexible working. We've had paternity updates, we've had the introduction of carers leave, there's neonatal leave coming in next year, there's a few other things on the cards, and obviously we do also have a general election, so we are expecting a bit more change to come up in the future. So again, keeping on top of those updates and keeping your policies up to date is really important, as if you're following an old policy with an old process such as flexible working, it could cause you issues in the future. And then we're moving on to our people. Sorry, one thing I should have mentioned, actually, we do have a link on the slides to all of those legislative updates, so I'm not going to go through everything now, but when you get the slide, sorry, there's also a QR code that's popped up there. So if you just scan that, or when you get the slides, you'll be able to click on that link, and that gives you an overview of the changes that have happened or are about to happen. But obviously, we'll keep you up to date on any further changes. So now we move on to people. So this is the impact of the policies that it could have on your engagement, on your attraction, on your retention, and on your culture, as I've mentioned. And I think it's key to say that obviously the impact of great policies is far-reaching. So on the left, obviously, you can see all of the different areas that it could have an impact. So your vision, your values, and your mission. So your code of conduct, for example, how do you expect your employees to behave? What are your values as a business? How are you communicating that? Is it just a sign on the wall, or have you got a policy that everyone knows about, that they can go and see and actually understand, maybe as a new starter, refresh for employees you already have, around what your business stands for? How do you want them to behave? That all feeds into the culture of the business. Diversity and inclusion, obviously, it's been a topic for a while now. It's still going, and you can feed it into a lot of your policies. Attraction via your employee value proposition. So how do you want to present yourselves as an employer? And that all then feeds into your engagement and your retention. So what do you have in place to keep hold of those employees? What benefits do you have in place that you communicate about? Do you have slick processes in place, which means where there are any issues or where there are any performance concerns, you have a really good process that is clearly defined in a policy that your managers can follow to deal with those issues or those concerns at an early stage to hopefully stop them escalating. As I've said, this all then kind of feeds back into the profit aspect and that branding aspect. So just providing that framework just helps with the positive culture, and it helps keep your employees motivated, committed, and productive. And finally, we move on to the profit. So all of this work, all of this legwork, all of the reasons why you should be investing also then feeds into that bottom line. How does this impact your profit? So if you have slick processes, well-defined policies that your employees can access, that your managers are trained on, then it helps with you dealing with any issues. So you deal with them early and therefore hopefully stop them escalating. You stop those tribunal claims coming in, you stop that ACAS early conciliation coming in, because you know you've followed a fair process, and you know it's a process that everyone understands and everyone can follow. If you have a good recruitment policy or process, that obviously helps with your cost per hire. So everyone knows what they need to be doing in that recruitment process. You can feed in that diversity and inclusion strategy into that. It helps with productivity. People know what they should be doing and when they should be doing it. Probation policies obviously help with your new starters, so giving them a really good welcome to the business and then hopefully retaining them. And then key issues that we find a lot in the HR advice side of the business, when we're talking with clients and when we're dealing with clients in their cases, obviously a lot are around absence and sickness management and then performance management. So do you have an absence and sickness policy in place that details those triggers that you might use for when you start to have absence review conversations? Or do you have a clear capability policy in place that details, right, so we're having performance concerns, those conversations should be happening with your manager. We're then going to move on to an informal PIP, and then we'll move on to a formal capability process. Is that detailed, and do your managers know how to follow it? All of the above can have a significant impact on the success and profitability of your organisation if it's not well managed. And it's useful just to say that actually all of those key areas are topics that we do have bite-sized learning courses on. So if it's something that's of interest, if it is something that you're really struggling with at the moment, then feel free to get in touch. And on that note, I think I'm going to hand over to Anna to talk us through next steps.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Kat. So Kat has very nicely covered the compliance, the people and the profit side of policies. What I'm going to do now is just talk around the next steps, and I'm going to break it down into 3 areas, which is review, act and embed. So I'm going to start off with review, and this won't seem like rocket science to you, but it is something that every organisation needs to do and needs to do on a regular basis. So you do need to review your existing policies to see if they're compliant with the latest legislative changes and requirements, especially, as we've said, with all of those that we've had going on early part of this year. Please make sure that they're aligned with your vision, mission and values and your behaviours, because then that helps with your company culture and everything that you do on a day-to-day basis. And most importantly, it needs to meet the needs of your entire workforce. And that includes all of the generations, the demographics, the workers based in different locations. Most organisations now are currently working with 5 generations within an active workforce. So not one size fits all. And we're not saying you need different policies, but what we are saying is once you've got a solid policy that you're happy with, you absolutely need to make sure that you get the message in and you embed it correctly to match those generations that you've currently got. It's really important to get the balance right, because if you haven't done it yet, we are more than happy to help you, but it is something that is going to be now an ever evolving kind of piece of work that you're going to need to kind of schedule in, do and update regularly. So I think if we move on, the next area to kind of look at really is further into that review, and who do you involve and how do you get that information out of the individuals? We've always said that your employees are your most important asset to your workforce. They definitely are probably one of the most contributive factors to your profitability and how you work. So it's really important to get them involved as well. We would highly recommend employee surveys, and that can be done on an annual basis and really in depth. It could be done on a very simple kind of pulse survey once a quarter with very quick hot fire 10 questions, but it's really important to get what their feedback is. Nobody ever wants to lose an individual from an organisation, but if you are losing someone, hopefully for the good, because they're moving on with their careers and you've upskilled them as much as they can, exit interviews are absolutely key, because it tells you what they've thought of your organisation, how it's going, what's happening, and all of those kind of key bits of data that you can do something with. When we talk about data and MI in general, it's great that we can probably pull off of some of our HR systems, the number of employees we've got and kind of what the turnaround looks like and all of those things. But actually, it's what you do with that data that makes it really key. It's how you drive that through. You need to give yourself a starting point of when you're going to start to review your data and then look at it on a month-on-month basis to tell you what the trends are, what that looks like, what's your board report telling you, all of those really key statistics that you need to do something with. Again, I've already mentioned your employees are your most important asset. Please involve them. If you are going to update and refresh all of your policies, how's the best way to get it out to that workforce? Have some focus groups that have got a really diverse kind of number of parties that join in and attend, listen to what they've got to say in terms of getting those messages out there. And the fact that they've played a part will absolutely mean that they will buy in and embed those in for you in a much simpler way. I hate to say it, but it's not all about you either. We all actually have competitors out there. So as and when you can, it would be great to find out what your competitors are doing. It's a really nice way to find out, well, what are they doing? How are they keeping hold of their people? What does their retention look like? What are they doing with their policies? How are they getting their staff involved? It's that constant review which will enable you to kind of bring on the change that you need to within your organisation and work across all of those generations, as we've said. We've already said it and we'll probably say it again, but we are here to help you in any way that we can. We do run a number of audits, and that includes a policy audit as well. So I think once you've reviewed everything, and we've covered a lot there, so it's not just your policies, it's your surveys, it's all of those things in the way that you engage with your individuals around this kind of topic, you need to act on it. I think really if you've created new policies, if you've done something, if you've asked your employees to be involved, if you ask for it, you need to act on it. I've said it a couple of times, but it's really important that everybody buys into those new policies, those refreshed policies, their own learning and their own way of kind of building with it as well. Which brings me on very nicely into embedding those policies and what to do. So none of this, again, is rocket science. It's just a lovely way to kind of think about how to do it. I think we've all got different tools that we can use within the organisation, whether that be SharePoints, whether that be an intranet, whether that be as a Lightful HR system. But please do use the tools that you have available to communicate about these. Make sure you have some meetings in place, especially if they're brand new policies, such as the carers policy or the big changes to the flexible working policy. Make sure everybody knows where to go to find the policies. A lot of the calls that we get into our employee assistance line are because they don't know where the policy is or they don't know what the policy says. So it's really great if you can kind of tie that in with any relaunches or refreshes that you're doing. I've already said it, but clear signposting is absolutely key. And it's something really to build in with the point that we've got here on number 3 as well, which is your induction for new starters. They need to know that they're protected as much as an organisation is protected. So if you can point them and build that into part of their kind of induction, even though policies are not particularly sexy, they are there to protect everyone. So it's great if you can get them engaged and on board on the first day. Just building on from those new starters, I think it's really key as well, if you don't already do it, is to do a kind of a 6-week new starter survey just to find out how was their onboarding, do they have their IT equipment, do they know where to find everything, are they happy, do they know what they've got, have they got everything that they need. I've referenced it already, but we do run an employee assistance line here, and that's to signpost employees around policy adherence. It's a great tool to take away, I guess, all of the kind of the legwork from your own kind of team. It just means that somebody else external can say, well, this is what your policy says, this is where you'll find it, this is what it means to you. So it's just a great added support tool as well for those employees. Again, it's absolutely key to deliver regular training for your line managers on how to effectively manage. Quite often organisations fall into the trap of making someone a leader or a manager or a team leader, but then they actually don't give them the skills to do the job. It's actually really hard to manage a team. So if you're giving them all of the right tools to do that, then actually your organisation will be so much more profitable in the long run because they're actually working to a really effective workforce. And again, if you want to encourage employees back into the office, which we are seeing so much of at the moment, it's a lot of what we're kind of the information and the traction that we're getting through some of our assistance lines. You need to explain the reasons why. You need to create a compelling office that offers that really valued proposition, that is a safe environment, that knows that there's something in it for them, and that how working across all of those different generations, all of those different workforces can actually build a really cohesive and a really, you know, collaborative team to work alongside. I think if you do all of that, then what you'll have is a load of successes, and it's great to be able to measure success. My key thing with measuring success is absolutely find a starting point. What is the number? What is the matrix? What does the data tell you at that point? And then work forward. Give yourself a 6-month goal to say, well, have we improved it? What does it look like? what have we learned from it? So it's really, really key to give yourself a clean starting point and then measure all of the data. Things that you need to think about are things like your time to hire and your whole recruitment process. What does your candidate say about you? If you are using external agencies, how happy are you with them? Are they meeting their KPIs? All of those kind of things. Kat has already talked to us very beautifully around compliance, but let's make sure that we are really compliant with those policies. How many ACAS kind of reconciliations have you had versus what you've got since you relaunched them? You know, how many performance management cases did you have versus now you've upskilled your managers versus what you're going to do? Look at your engagement rates. If you're trying to get people back into the office, what did it look like X amount of months ago to what does it look like now and in the future? And how are people enjoying it? How are people learning from it? Again, we've already said employee opinion surveys, all of those results, all of those pulse surveys are really, really key. If you're a larger organisation, just doing something as really simple as what would you like us to stop, what would you like us to start, and what would you like us to continue are just different ways of engaging with those employees. Look at your tenure. How long have people stayed within your organisation? If they've stayed for a long time, it's because you're doing something right. Learn off of that. What do they love? What do they love about it? What keeps them there? If you've got people that don't stay for as long, again, why didn't they stay as long? Is it because they've got other career opportunities? Did they join on a trainee programme? Or was there just purely something that was missing that you can learn from? Look at your onboarding and your offboarding, which we've already talked about. That's in terms of those services and how you can make it really speed for them. Look at your employee brand, the awareness and the perception of the organisation. One thing we would say is every employee that works for you and your organisation should be an ambassador for you. They should be an ambassador of the organisation that they work for, and they should be incredibly proud of it, and you should be incredibly proud of them. What we're finding with the different generations is that language like personal brand and things like that have changed. And it's one of the little bite-sized sessions that we tend to be running more of. So everybody understands what their LinkedIn profile means to them and what meeting etiquette means and how their brand comes along and how it affects internal and external stakeholders. Again, it's one of those measures that we don't like shouting about, but think about your fines and your legal proceedings. Nobody likes them. Every organisation, sadly, will have one somewhere along the line, and it's what you do with it that is absolutely key. Look at your productivity rates. If you get the right working environment, you get the right team on board and everybody's doing what they should be doing, your productivity rates will be amazing. But most importantly, absolutely everything I've said will affect your bottom line. And that's what ultimately having the right values, having the right culture, having the right proposition, and having all of those policies to protect you and the organisation will absolutely help your bottom line. And I think finally for me, I'm just going to end with a couple of top tips, really. Your line managers are your key. So anybody that has anybody reporting into them are absolutely key to ensure that you're investing in time to train them on all of those policy utilisations and what they mean and what their guidelines are and what those boundaries are. Keeping the momentum going, reviewing the policies and the feedback at least once a year or when the legislation is updated. Kat has already said we've got an election creeping up on us on the 5th of July. We know that depending on which party gets in, there could be some drastic changes. Again, we've only just updated them from the April changes. We could be updating them again quite quickly. Please do measure your return on investment in productivity. You'll know if the policies are making a difference. It's an easy one to measure. You don't need any fancy tools to do it. It's just about utilising the information that you've got. Keep engaging your employees for feedback. Doing that stop, start, continue thing is an amazing quick win that you can do. You can do that at team meeting level. You can do it at one-to-one level. It's all different levels that you can do that on. And something that's really nice to do is just open the door, let them know that you are a really engaged organisation. Half-yearly doctor surgeries, open the door for questions, feedback, give them their opinion face-to-face. Just a lovely drop-in day is a really nice way to kind of do it and just to find out what they've got to say. That's all from me. So I'm now going to hand back over to Sam.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Kat. Lovely. So we're just coming to the close of the content then. So just to reiterate, we're here because it's such an important area But then there are many, many ways that we can support you. We know that as HR professionals, your to-do list is never ending. So, you know, if you do need any help and support, whether it's with an audit or generation of new policies, we can absolutely support you with that. So please do feel free to get in touch. Alternatively, please do feel free to take a look at the remaining webinars that we're hosting for the rest of the year. Personally really excited about these next ones, incredibly hot topic. So in September, we'll be looking at neurodiverse workforces and how you can really empower neurodiverse employees in your business. And then in December, we'll be wrapping up the year looking at good old AI and how you get that magic sort of balance right between kind of, you know, ethically harnessing those AI tools in HR recruitment, but also still maintaining and delivering a really exceptional kind of human personalized experience. Registrations are both open for those on our website via the Insights page, so we'd love to see you there. Do feel free to please come along. And all that's left for me to do today is to say thank you. Thank you very much for joining. Like we say, you'll get an email with a copy of all the deck and the recording shortly. And if you need any support with any of the stuff that we've talked about, please feel free to get in touch.